Okay, 28 years later. I have never seen 28 days later. I've never seen 28 months later or weeks later. I'm not even sure what the movie is called. This is my first movie in this franchise, and I gotta say, you don't need to watch any of those ones to get into this movie. And I think that's a great starting point. Let's talk about the ups, downs, and maybe a little bit misadvertising of 28 Years Later by Sony hitting theaters this weekend. That's right, I said mismanaging because much like for a lot of people with Materialists, 28 Years Later is not the movie you see in the trailer. With Materialists, you think you're getting a classic throwback rom-com with Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans and like a throuple type, will they, won't they type drama, romantic comedy. And instead you get a much more character nuanced study and story that works very well. But if you go in looking for a romantic comedy, you might not like what you're going to get. 28 Years Later, with its amazing trailer, makes you think you're going to be getting an action-packed zombie horror movie that keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout. And while there's moments that deliver some parts of that, that's not what 28 Years Later is. It's a much more coming-of-age, character-driven story that delivers a huge, heartfelt punch towards the end of this movie. What I would say 28 Years Later is like, it is basically an adult horror zombie apocalyptic Pixar story. What I mean by that is we're following the character of Spike, played brilliantly by young actor Alfie Williams. He, in the beginning parts of the movie, gets to do some world building with his father as he goes out to the mainland for the first time as a kid who lives on the kind of a separated island that is able to have a pathway during low tide. The beginning part of this movie with Johnson really does great world building, and as somebody who hasn't seen any of these movies before, I think does deliver some intense moments, some solid world building, and really sets the stage what becomes the second and major focal point of the movie, which is Alfie's journey with his mother, played by Jodie Comer, looking for a doctor to help her illness. And this is why I say it's more of a Pixar story, because the movie is really focused around Alfie Williams' Spike coming to grips with the world that he now lives in and kind of the world that other people are getting put in. There's references to outside world. We learned in the beginning parts of the intro of this movie that this rage virus has basically been kept only to the British Isles and the United Kingdom. And it hasn't spread across Europe, so it's very centralized and stuff, but the rest of the world is living like it's 2025, just like we do, and you get that little bit mixed in here and there in different parts, in different ways I don't want to spoil, but you're getting this, like, again, coming of age, coming to grips with the world, becoming into your shoes and into grips with reality through Spike. And Alfie Williams is just nailing this role down so hard. You do have a little bit of dumb kid syndrome, and that can get a little bit frustrating in the first part of the movie when the decision gets made to go after this doctor with his sick mother, because you're just, again, stupid kid syndrome. You're just like, oh, what is this kid doing? But he does deliver, I think, a great coming-of-age performance for this 12-year-old in character, Spike, as he goes on this journey trying to save his mother. And his mother is expertly played by Jodie Comer, and without going any details with what's going on with her, just know that I think Jodie Comer takes this very difficult task and delivers another outstanding performance from her in it. People might not be too in love with it because, the illness she's dealing with does impair her, what her character is able to do, but I do think Comer is able to sell everything going on with that character and leaving that character in a great place through this whole entire movie in relation to Spike and the world around everything else like that. Other standout character for me is Ray Fiennes' character, who plays the doctor at the point. Excellent character, beautiful scenes involving the character, so much vivid, photography in there that is really, I think, again, helps build and ground this world into its own type of thing, and really helps Alfie, again, come of age in a different way, in a different part of humanity and himself, as he's learning to live in this very much back, olden zombie apocalyptic world. Now, what I will say, though, is if you're going in expecting zombies, chasing, having your heart beating 24/7, this movie is not that. This movie is about the coming of age of Spike. It's about the journey that he's going on. It's about him learning what the world is like. And unfortunately for a kid and a sick mother, you can't have that nonstop action because obviously they probably would die. But I do think this movie delivers on great relationships. It does give you great horror moments and great scenes. And really, like, Pixar delivers a great message and a great heart towards the end of the movie for our main character, Alfie, to go on with in his life. And it's so funny to think like this rated R movie that has a lot of genitalia out on all the zombies who have been zombies potentially for 28 years, and with this rage virus. Really be a Pixar-style movie at heart. And I think if you go in knowing it's going to be that, knowing that it is going to be a coming-of-age character journey for a younger individual, you will enjoy 28 years later a whole lot. If you're going in expecting a non-stop, action-packed zombie apocalyptic-type movie, I think you're going to come out of this being a little bit like, that's not what I wanted. That's not what the trailer promised. And it's clear that Sony wants people to go see this movie because it already has filmed a sequel, and this is clearly based on the ending, a planned sequel and planned trilogy from Alex Garland, Danny Boyle, and others, which I'm excited to see. I think it ends in a very just way. Don't let it be spoiled for you if you want to go see this movie. That intrigues me for the next product, which is supposedly coming out in January. But that trailer is so misleading that I'm already seeing the audience score kind of be in that 60 percentile, and it's because everybody is going to be going there expecting this summer action-packed zombie thriller, and instead you're given a much more character-driven, coming-of-age young individual drama that is akin to a Pixar movie that I don't think people are looking for with this movie. If you go in with the open mind, 28 years later is a wonderful time, and for me, I'm giving it a platinum. I do think the story has rough edges at parts, and I can kind of see where I might have done things a little bit differently or better, but overall, I found this to be a very great story, carried by an excellent performance from Alfie Williams, and a surrounding supporting field from Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, Ray Fiennes, and just about anybody else in this movie supporting Alfie's character Spike up. But the movie never really fully feels like it knows what it wants to be, and that's why it's stuck in the platinum range for me. But I still think if you go with an open mind, you will enjoy 28 years later.